with Glastonbury Underground, what lies beneath the holiest earth. Please welcome Mr. Shaun.
Hello. Right, better get on with it. Ever since I arrived in Glastonbury over 12 years ago, I heard about these rumours about tunnels, and right from childhood I've been sort of fascinated by tunnels. I was brought up in a little village in Sussex called Linfield that had reputedly had a tunnel going from the River Ouse up to a graveyard in the church. I never found it. And then I moved to Hastings, and when there's more smugglers' tunnels there. And later became the person in charge of Hastings Sewer Records. So, yeah. I had a full set of waders and everything. But when I got here, I heard these rumours. I found an A4 book edited by Anthony Roberts about Glastonbury with lots of essays by different people. There's one by Anne Pennick in there. And that fascinated me, so I started looking into it, and by the time the world hadn't ended in 2012, and I never said it would, by the way, I put out 34 copies, preliminary copies of this Glastonbury Underground book, just to distribute around local authors to try and get some feedback. And we had a little fun, we went around looking for stuff. And it's taken till now to come to have enough material to present to you, anyways. So that was my caveman phase. And that's in a Neolithic cave that's about 7,000 years old in Spain. And there are 6 skulls in it, most of which were calcited into the walls. You can see the groove where pottery in the background there. It's no longer accessible. I felt very privileged to get in there. To my former incarnation in searching for the Holy Grail. But in the sometime between the 10th and the 14th century, the Book of Taliesin arrived, and there was a story in there about King Arthur and his knights who took a trip beyond the glass fort that guards the gate to the underworld. And they went there to capture the cauldron of inspiration and plenty that was guarded by 9 maidens. And there was a later myth about King Arthur where he came to Avalon and was treated by 9 maidens to try and heal his wound. So this number 9 occurs in both myths, connecting a cauldron, somewhat like a grail, King Arthur and Avalon. And then a later myth mentions St. Colin, who was invited into King Gwynap's throne room. He refused several times until the messengers threatened him, and then he agreed and went in a door in the side of the tor, and they offered him some food to eat, and he said, I will not eat the leaves off a tree. And then he got his holy water out and threw it all about while insulting their mode of dress. And then everything disappeared, and he ended up standing on the side of the tor in the sunlight. But before all that, we had lake villages, and Avalon was said to be like an island that wasn't inhabited, but that they came here to bury the dead. And it was like in the Celtic belief system, your soul's believed to go to the underworld via a hill. So you've got all these connections with the underworld in these myths about Glastonbury. And then Professor Philip Bratz, he reckoned that the terracing on the tor is actually a sacred maze like a Greek labyrinth. and he said that it could end in a tunnel going into an underground chamber. He was an archaeologist who liked the mythology about Glastonbury, and therefore the mainstream archaeologists were not very keen on him. So at the time of the dissolution, Glastonbury Abbey was the second richest abbey in the country after Westminster Abbey. It had been the richest abbey in previous times. The King, Henry VIII, wanted to get his hands on those riches, and they had 4 years warning from when the dissolution started until they got to Glastonbury. And then we had the abbot was then grilled. He was taken up to the Tower of London and grilled to try and find out where all the sacred relics were. They didn't find them. There's not a lot of record of what was said of the trial. He should have been tried at the House of Lords because he was by an Act of Parliament, but they were on recess due to the King should have been there to open the Parliament, but his girlfriend was missing or something, so it didn't happen. And the Cromwell, that's not Oliver Cromwell, it's Thomas Cromwell, he wanted to get on with it, and so they decided to hold a kangaroo court in Wales. And anyway, the 3 of them were then taken up on tour and executed in the most disgusting way. And it said one of the few things that were recorded was that Richard Pollard, the King's surveyor, said that Whiting would confess to no more gold. But one of the things they were looking for was called the Glastonbury Super Altar, containing a huge cabochon sapphire officially sold to the Crown in 1660. If you look it up on Wikipedia, it says that its early history is murky or obscure. And then you can look at lots of history websites about ancient jewellery and crown jewels, and they all give you a different story as to where this stone in the crown jewels came from. It's called the Stuart Sapphire because James Stuart owned it at one point, but it seems pretty obvious that this is the missing sapphire from the Glastonbury Super Altar, which was given by the Patriarch of Jerusalem to St David, and St David presented it to Glastonbury Abbey, and then it got lost, and Henry of Blois found it, and it was mounted in this gold and silver altar studded with gems. Unfortunately, Henry's men found it 2 days after the execution on the Tor, and that's when it disappears for over 100 years until it turns up in the crown jewels. But I think it is. But anyway, we can't prove whether it is or isn't at this time. Anyway, this abbey treasures consisted of land. First and foremost was lots and lots of land given by 3 kings. 14 kings gave gifts and relics. Between 3 and 4 kings, depending on whether you believe that it's King Arthur, that was buried in the abbey, were buried there. Saxon kings. King Iron gave a silver chapel and a gold altar that you can see. I mean, these are not the actual things. I've tried to give you an idea of the sort of riches that the abbey used to contain. It burned down in the 1100s and then was rebuilt again. But so they had to start over. But here's some of these things. Gifts from King Iron, and that book at the top left-hand corner is one of the sources where I got this information. A gold censer weighing £8, a chalice and paten weighing £10, foot baths of £8, holy silver water vessel weighing £20, silver candelabra £12.5, golden gospel covers of £20, gold water vessels of £17, gem-studded vestments, a figure of the Lord, Virgin Apostles, £175 of silver and £38 of gold, 3 silver cups and a water jug. King Canute gave this thing for Ironside's tomb, studded with golden apples and pears, costly image of the Virgin. From King Edgar there was a cross for the high altar of silver gilts. swords here, something that is exactly like the spear of Longinus, the spear that pierced the side of Christ. Not the actual one, but one that's pretty well exactly the same as that. Onyx cups, 2 gold crosses, 2 gold-hilted swords, 400 pounds of gold. Gold altar gates. One of the guides at the Abbey used to talk about the lost golden altar gates, but they've stopped doing that. There was a sword that was claimed to be Excalibur, the golden altar given by Avalon. I don't expect you to read that lot, but there was a whole room filled to the roof with icons. These things such as St. Peter's teeth, Mary's milk, John the Baptist's forefinger, and part of the Lord's sandal. But each of these things was encased in gold or silver and encrusted with gems, and they had a whole room stacked to the roof with them, and they were all said to be responsible for miracle cures. So there's 4 versions of a prophecy. They're all slightly different. Probably originate in 2 prophecies. The prophecy of Melkin, which is a 14th century one by John of Glastonbury, or they originate in Taliesin and the Cauldron of Arthur story. So legends say these hidden treasures will one day be revealed, and/or the bones of St. Joseph ushering in an age of peace and enlightenment to the world. So the truth's got to come out, and now is the time. So I'm going to go through some of the legends, principally the ones mentioned by Anne Penny to start with. The treasure chamber. Bly Bond, director of the excavations at the Abbey, started in 1908. He was taken on in order to really be in charge, make sure everything went smoothly in the excavations of the Abbey, but unknown to the authorities, he was a member of the Society of Psychic Research, and he started doing some automatic writing with another man, where they both hold a hand of each other, and one of them holds a pen, and they both look away from the pen and ask questions. They got in touch with 9 dead monks who were actually from different points in the Abbey's history. Anyway, what the information they gave them, a lot of it was drawings like this one, and you can see a rough map of the Abbey there, and the pathway with a little cross, porter's door, and near that was a stone ad dextrum, which means to the right. But anyway, nobody's found that stone, but that showed the rough positioning of a treasure chamber. The actual words were, there lay a chamber full 16 by 16 in which the treasure lay. The story of the Abbey could be hidden from the Northmen, but after no man could the chamber find. Some say ye saw King Arthur was kept there. This is one of the things that came through via these sessions. Anyway, I've got our friend Shaun, who you saw adjusting the microphone just now. He's a dowser, and I got him and Tony Kennish, another dowser, to do a little bit of dowsing. And first of all was a little bit of video of Tony dowsing for the treasure chamber.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what we're looking for today is to douse for the possible location of a chamber that the monks talked about in the Book of Remembrance. This is to do when the Danes came here in the 11th century, and all the precious gold and silver and chalices were hidden in a chamber somewhere to the north of the Lady Chapel. So I'm just going to look for that right now. Okay, there's one edge of the chamber.
All right.
There's the other corner. And there's the other corner. So there's a rectangular chamber under there at that period of time in the 11th century.
Right.
He feels that it's been filled in now, that it's not just sitting there full of treasure. That's what he gets. Anyway, so then I asked Shaun to do a bit, and while we were getting ready to do it, he said, I'm just going to watch the people walking along the path there to get a sign as to where it is first. And somebody's got to do something conspicuous so we know where it is. And along came Carty, one of the local ladies from this town, and this is what happened.
Stop where the treasure room is, please, or do something. Okay, she wiped her nose. Right. Check it out. She wiped her nose.
That's it. She wiped her nose, so that's where the treasure room is. And then here's Shaun actually doing the dowsing.
This is interesting. We've just hit another tunnel, which is crossing this one, or something.
What he found there was that there was another tunnel leading to the treasure room, which, strangely enough, is something that is described in those things that were brought through by Barr. I'll show you a map of that later on. That's the two positions that Tony and Shaun found the treasure room to be in. Tony's red, Shaun's blue. Interesting, neither of them were square in shape. So the second one is the most famous tunnel that people talk about in the town, the Pilgrim Inn. The legend. One tale says a monk was discovered using that tunnel for his secret love trysts. As punishment, he was shut into the tunnel alive when it was blocked up. Some think that ghost monk occasionally glimpsed in the hotel may be him. And that's in one of the popular books about Glastonbury. Then this was an actual account of somebody. Off we started on our underground journey down a flight of fearful steep steps. Blah, blah, blah. They saw the tunnel, it was only 3 feet in height, so they used it must have crawled on their knees, resting at intervals where ledges are cut into the sides. So, other witnesses, I've met several people who actually went down there. About 10 years ago it was blocked up. And I met a few people who've been down it, and it does fit that description. So those are the fearfully steep steps that she spoke about. Bligh went down looking for it, and eventually he spotted where he thought it was and got permission to dig a hole in the wall, and he found it. And so I've been down in the cellar of the Georgian Pilgrim. You can see it behind that vertical white pipe in the room at the back there. That's where it was. They blocked it up, as I say, because It's now bisected by a Victorian brick sewer up the centre of the high street. The sewer started leaking and people were put off their pier by the smell of sewage. So they put a board on there and put cavity infill around the edge, which you could see sticking out. And there's another account there. This is the oldest account I've found of the tunnel, and it's a controversial one. You know, for years people didn't like to talk about it. They kind of mentioned it because it puts a slur on the abbots of the monks. It says, "The Georgian with stairs by which we ascend to the abbot's chamber were very privately. In the chamber is a fair ancient bedstead, wrought and gilded finely. Here the abbot by the vault came often to this inn and this chamber to exercise himself ad purgandos rinis, which means for the purging of his loins. The manor house, Mr. Dorval told me that this bedstead is always reserved for the king on his lease to use at his pleasure, and in this room they say King Henry VIII once lay." That's a close-up of the blocked-up tunnel entrance there. It's a bit bitty because it's hard to take a photograph in the cramped conditions. There it is. It was sealed in around 2007. This purports to be a picture of what's on the other side of it. I can't verify whether that is that or not, but it fits the description. And in that account it mentions that the abbot came and then he went up a secret stairway to this gilded bedstead upstairs. That's the secret stairway, which when I first went it was blocked off by beer barrels, and then I returned later when there was a new owner and they moved the beer barrels and I was able to go up it. That's the secret stairway, and then the next one shows me going up.
It's got the Cadbury's barrels, Jeff.
Right.
Been fine so far.
So it comes out underneath the bar now. Originally the whole design of the place was different, but there was a spiral stair at the end there where I pointed the camera upwards. So what was at the other end of this, what the spectral monks call the Kingsway? Well, Bly Bond thought that it went to just next door to here, the building called St Dunstan's House. It's been renovated now, but in the basement there, one of the owners before Bond arrived here had some work done in the cellar, and they broke through into a tunnel and found a lamp in it, and then she ordered them to seal it up. So Bond didn't even witness this, but he surmised that because of the direction that the one from the pub was pointing, that it seemed to be pointing in this direction, so it must in fact join up to this. However, as you see on the diagram there, this is in the basement of the house next door here, there's a bricked up piece with a load of rubbish behind it there. That's where I thought it was, and all that rubbish was cleared out eventually, and there was no evidence of the tunnel there, unfortunately. Then I spoke to a previous resident who told me I was going in the wrong direction, and it didn't go that way straight across here, but it went 90 degrees up there toward the Glastonbury Experience. And the way he knew that was because in the room next door he dropped a bamboo cane through the floor, through a little hole, and then poked an endoscope down there, and he saw an arched passageway going off in that direction. That's what it would look like the St Dunstan's house before the renovations. That's St Dunstan's shed. No longer, it's kind of been knocked down and that, but the last bit is. But where that black flower pot is, there's a grill on the ground, and it's directly under there, that last thing we saw, this is St Dunstan's grill. So this is this descent into St Dunstan's cellar. You'll hear some strange noises from the inhabitants of the house at that time. Simulation of what it might look like on that video. If it had gone in this direction across here, that is. Anyway, the third legend is from the Tor to the Abbey. This actually exists, and it certainly did exist as the water supply to the Abbey. The primary original water supply was from the Lambrook stream. That was replaced by Chalice Well as a source, and it came down Chalice Well stream, which was went below the ground in an arched tunnelway, and the way we know this is there's a report from 1974 when the road collapsed outside the Rural Life Museum, and people looked down the hole and saw it there. And it also collapsed on the other side of the Rural Life Museum, just on the corner of the building at the back there. And unfortunately, contractors who were working on it filled it with concrete. Oh no, sorry, it was rubble, not concrete in this case. One of the tunnels was filled with concrete, this was rubble. Anyway, there's this story by Richard Leviton, who claims that he travelled through the tunnel during an out-of-body state, this particular tunnel, and encountered a guardian, and it resembled the Yeti. But we've got another account from somebody who I'd love to meet. I haven't met this guy yet, who says that somebody whose father was building the reservoir underneath the Tor showed me one of the mentioned tunnels which still leads from the Abbey into, outside of town. The bit I walked was, or at least seemed to be, several hundred yards. So, unfortunately I haven't found the entrance to that, but I think I know the general area where it was, but I think it has been tarmacked over. Anyway, that one has also got a legend that goes with it about 30 monks that are supposed to have come out of it too insane and one struck dumb. So there's the Abbey barn. On the map here, where is it? The two little red dots you can see there. That's where the two tunnel collapses were. One in the road right outside the Rural Life Museum, opposite the Abbey, and the other one at the back of it. So from that story, that seemed to be the general trajectory of the Chalice Well stream. But Reading University's study, which you'll see later, contradicts the diagram in the 1978 book and article by Anne Pennick. She gives it as that direction, going across from the Rural Life Museum and with a sort of an L-shaped twist to it. That's an account, it was actually by Anthony Roberts, the editor, who provided the account. They were filming Stanley Kubrick's film, Barry Lyndon, at the time, and he says the filmmaker, and presumably Kubrick then, reported seeing this where the lorry crashed through the road and you could see the tunnel underneath. So from all that, I presumed initially that was, before seeing the Reading University information, I presumed that was the run of it. This is worked out by Reading University using those sources from 1628 to right up to 1982, and you can go in the Abbey and see a slight dent in the ground where that runs across there. Underneath the fish pond, which wasn't there originally, the bigger pond was an Abbey construction, but not the little one at the top. So it went right across there with two water supply runs. There is, if you can just about make out in the road, a buried manhole cover in Beer Lane where the collapse occurred. But that also is a slight variation from another archaeological report on it, which has it in that position where the dotted line is. It's, but that's an older one before the Reading University work. So, tor tunnels. There are all these 9 different stories. In fact, every time I mention this to anyone, they come up with another story. So I looked into some of these. What all those 3s are. So that you can't see that. Anyone who's been up the tor from the other side will have noticed this colourfully painted trapdoor. It goes down to a waterboard reservoir, originally an underground lake, which used to be like the size of a large badger hole apparently, and people used to slide down it and swim around in the lake. And according to one source, in the 50s, 2 potholes went down and they came out. They were bonkers, stark raving mad, and they ended up in the silent wells. And we also got the story that a group of black magicians come down from London and do rituals down there. So on the other side of the tor, behind the White Spring, just above it, above the White Spring, is a cottage, and in the back garden is that's taken from the field behind that photograph. Under there is a padlocked cover. I've met several people who've been down this one over the years. One guy, this before they locked it all up, been down there 4 or 5 times. And he reported that, this is about 30 years ago, he got down, went in up the brick line, the first part of this, at the bottom of the well, you've got access to the cave and tunnel that used to come out where the White Spring is. The first part is brick lined, and then it goes into a cave tunnel, and then there was a blockage which he climbed over, and one tunnel went down and the other one went up, but he didn't explore further than that. So I spoke to a local person who's in an esoteric group, and she told me that her group has been out of body and explored the caverns, and that there's 4 caverns, each of which has an astral guardian, and the further you go in, the nastier these things get. There's another story about a cave entrance that used to be where this bench now is. I can't say much more than that about that. I haven't been able to find out anything more than that, except that it was sometime after the 60s or 1968, it says it was blocked up. So the Eggstone Tunnel was the fabled entrance to the underworld, said to be the place where St. Colin accessed the Tor. Yes, as I say, one person says King Arthur's asleep down there. I spoke to somebody who, around about 30 years, or between 20 and 30 years ago, saw somebody took him up there and just dug into the side of the hill and uncovered an archway, a stone archway, with a big G and a smaller S carved into the keystone. Well, they went in a few feet and then filled it all in again. But he did show me a diagram of exactly where it is, but I went up there last week and somebody's been digging behind the Eggstone, so I'm not going to say any more about that. Then there's this one that's there. This connects to Ratz's idea that at the centre of the labyrinth, you descend vertically, and there's this story that there was a hole in the Tor down which things were dropped and heard very far below. A set of steps were found in the 19th century which dug down a certain way and not pursued and just filled up again. So I've been looking for this one. Still had no luck on this, really. I was told that I think somewhere up Chiltwell Street, or between Wellhouse Lane and Ashwell Lane, in someone's back garden, the gardeners were clearing the undergrowth. They came across a doorway and they unblocked it, went into the Tor, and then they both came out being chased by something horrible and blocked it up, never to be opened again. It's time for the intermission. This is, thought you'd like some news of my motorcycle. So I rode it to the West Orthlet Panther Rally, and 180 miles over one weekend, and I managed to win a prize for the most desirable panther, even though it's not a panther. Yeah. And the inflatable Zimmer frame was not won by me, that was one of the raffle prizes. There's a guy in town who was taken blindfolded. He was blindfolded in the town centre, having been told about this tunnel. He was told he could see it, but he wasn't allowed to know where it was. They blindfolded him, took him in the car, and the lady that showed him where it was worked at this place in Tor Down, and so he thought that that's where it was by working out where the car was going. So it was definitely in that general area on Ashwell Lane. But I've been up and spoke to the owner, and he assures me there's no basement in there or in any of the houses further along Ashwell Lane, as far as he knows. But he told me that maybe it must be somewhere else, and then he said, "Why don't you try Shambhala, because Isis used to run Shambhala, and she said she had a tunnel at Shambhala." I spoke to the current owner, and she hadn't found it. So then I spoke to a previous resident who used to work there, and she said it was probably a fourth dimensional portal, because that's, knowing Isis, that's the kind of way she used to think. And there is quite a big ley line up that runs through the living room there. Quite a powerful one. Oh, yes.
Morning! Yeah, but I want him to put the fucking jet back on. Oh, dude? Yeah, come on. Send it up, like.
Yeah, that was my investigation of a manhole that I thought would lead me to the Chancellor stream, but unfortunately it didn't. So the fifth legend is the Great Drain. Now, Anne Pennick gave us this diagram in her article there, but she got it confused with another drain. And I've looked at her source, I found out what her source material is now, and that's all included at the back of the book as an appendix. The reason she got it confused is because Blythe speaks about this, the Great Drain, while also speaking about another drain, which you'll see in a moment is near there, and so this is kind of an average between them. But what the spectral monk said was, ye should seek the Great Drain, many things are therein, ye should seek for it. So where is the Great Drain? Well, if you see the river daughter there, here is the main drain. This, the river daughter, is the monk's latrine. You can still see that. I'll show you a photo in a moment. Here's the outlet pipe. This was excavated by Blythe. One of his students walked down it for 60 feet. This piece here in blue still exists, and I can show you a photograph. It actually goes right across under Magdalen Street and went down between the almshouses there. That's the outlet of the River Daughter. There's a close-up on the grill. So that all fills up with water, and the water goes down that grill hole to drain out. Originally, I've got a witness from this town who's lived here his whole life, and 50 years ago, that hole was big enough, before it had all been re-bricked, big enough for a child to crawl through. Just about 25 feet away, there's a manhole cover, which I pulled up, and that's what I found underneath. You can see the main drain there. So I jumped down it and looked back up it towards that grill you just saw. It's it's not very high. You'd have to waddle a bit. But on the other side, I turn around 180 degrees. There's another grill showing that the water that gathers there still goes down there. It still drains through. So on the other side of this brickwork here, the main drain continues, and presumably all the way under Magdalen Street and draining onto the levels. So the bit that Blythe student walked included 35 feet on the other side of that. So the inlet pipe here was also being looked at. Excavated in 1933, a large drain was discovered, arched, running east to west. The drain was silted up and broken. Another cutting was made to the west of the previous one. The large drain was discovered with two exits. That's the two exits that go in, that come out here into the latrine. So the implication is that an arched tunnel probably goes all the way up here. This is again from the University of Reading, and along there and up to Chathwell. The fifth legend, the Abbey House Tunnel. It says this is from the sessions of automatic writing and the mediumship. Dig beyond the beds of feathered grasses, there was a passage to the east, door in the wall to the street. In the midst of it, it remains. There was a lodging where now is the great house, and we loved passages. They were safe, and the priesthood loveth secret places. So this gateway here is probably a reconstruction built at the time of the house from bits of old Abbey stone. And that was around 1830, because none of the archaeologists mention this gateway, and yet the monks are mentioning a gateway in this position. So I managed to get in on the open day, which they had once a year there, and in the basement they've got this chapel. And there's some record from the gardener of this place that says that they filled in these tunnels and the large flagstones were wanted by the owner for his building work. Well, that's what you find all over the floor in the basement here. The large flagstones that formed a roof to the tunnel that went across the garden there. And here's in this piece by Bly, Bond and Mantle from 1911. This is a great discovery. Also archived this in the back of the book. It's a whole chapter from an archaeological book. Rumours also spoke of a similar passage leading from the great house to the top of the grounds westward toward the Abbey ruins. The house was built in 1827. There's a story to the effect that one such passage was cut into when the basement was formed and was stopped off by a wall. So it could well be behind that very wall there. Yeah, there's another angle of it. So I managed to find a little door and slip through the door with an infrared camera. The vault in there is quite similar to the vaulted space underneath St Dunstan's house next door here. That's a flash photo I took in there. And yes, full of junk, the whole place. It's now been sold to the Abbey. It was owned by some other people, but so I don't know what it's like now. But behind all the junk, there could be something interesting. So here we have a correlation between two of the Dowsers. Tony and Michael both found confirmation of that tunnel there going up to up Dodd Lane, which was always associated with Dodd Lane. There's said to be one here, which this is before the recent renovations, so-called, which I think have ruined it. This is the well, St Joseph's Well, under St Joseph's Chapel there. There was said to have been a tunnel that went off from there and went all the way to Street. But none of this stuff can be seen anymore. I took this another composite picture because of lack of room to do it. But there's these, well, there are these bits in the wall you can see here, which seem to indicate earlier constructions behind the current brickwork there. And the original staircase there has been replaced by a wrought iron spiral staircase. So a dog is said to have been put into the tunnel at Street and found its way out at the Glastonbury end. And that keeps turning up, this dog. Another version was that a lamb got lost down there. This is what the well used to look like before they put a big glass sheet over it. You can see here, I don't know if you can see the reclining monk there. Hang on, there he is. Could be my eyes. So this line that came out from there and apparently went all the way to Street, according to Avalon, that's where under the River Brew. Pretty unlikely, I think. But a lot of people think it and insist that it is there and did go under the broom. And we've got Tony doing a little bit of dowsing on that one.
Yeah, it's the centre line of the well there, underneath.
Right.
That's one wall extending out. And that's where I get it going to. There. That's the other wall. So that's how it comes out. So there was an area underneath there where the well is, extending this way. So if you go on the centre line of the tunnel, which is there.
I'm here.
Seems to keep on going.
Right.
Yeah, just straight across there.
So he found it went pretty well in a straight line right across there. Chapter House Tunnel, this is the other one that Anne Penny mixed up with the Great Drain, because the Great Drain goes off the Wirra Daughter, and this is her picture of the what she thought was the Great Drain, but it's been called the Chapter House Tunnel. This was one of the early ground-penetrating radar pictures from Reading University. They've removed it from the website now, but that shows this train going right across the Chapter House, yes. So that's where she should have found it to be. And when you join it up to the other reports, that's the kind of line that you get. Because the gardener, the one that was talking about the slabs being used in the basement of Abbey House, he described the passage as being substantially built of stone, rectangular in shape and 7 feet deep and 4 foot wide. That's quite substantially larger than most of the other tunnels. And archaeologists in mentioning this think it's post-dissolution. So that's how he described its position: a well-built subterranean passage discovered at a point south of the Great Church, a little way to the east of the site of the Chapter House. So that's what it looks like. Anyway, I met these people at the pub who told me that when they were children, they used to play in St Mary's Chapel, and there was a hole at the end of it, and they used to see who would dare to go the furthest up the hole, and that its trajectory was straight across towards where the Freemasons' Hall is. They didn't dare go very far up it. They had a few beers. So I was starting to get a picture of what these, at one point, of where all these passageways went across the Abbey there. But as you can see, the trajectory of the one from Chalice Well has now been altered. However, there's a guy called Jack Gale who wrote a book about his visionary experiences in Glastonbury, and he had visions of the monks doing strange ceremonies in underground tunnels, and he said that all the tunnels met in a pentagram shape. Well, if you join those up, you do get a kind of pentagram shape, actually. So I thought I'd got an explanation for that, but then having seen the later work by Reading University, that really doesn't hold water anymore. Yes, Michael Tyke, many of you will know him. He's also a dowser as well as a musician and a numerologist. This is what he found with his dowsing, and that does seem to look a little bit like a pentagram shape as well. Tony and Shaun's results are shown here, Tony in red and Shaun in blue. Shaun found these passageways, and that one there is actually mentioned in the communications from the monks, that it was joined to a passageway to take it out of the Abbey, if necessary. But if the Danes invaded, that was. Yeah, why did Dowsers get different results? Well, I was thinking maybe it's like ground penetration radar, because if you go on the University of Reading website and look up all the plots that they've done for the Abbey, you find it's very confusing once you add them all together, because there's three different levels. There's a resistivity survey, a magnetic survey, and the GPR. And the GPR's at three different depths, and you're getting all different things at different depths, because it's had such a long history of being dug and filled in with stuff, so it can get quite confusing. And I'm thinking maybe the dowsers are tuning into different depths like that. I was talking to Shaun about it today, and he said that he dowses for deformations to a grid, which he thinks finds to be more reliable than actually looking for tunnels. He's looking at how they've changed the shape of this grid. Right, so I got into studying all the results of Reading University, and they've said a lot about all these different sections here. It's the combined results of the, which, I mean, it would be too confusing to show you all those plots, and besides which I haven't really got the permission to do that, because it's all copyright. So that's one of the most interesting things, I think, because that's just outside the limits of the GPR survey, because there's a steep bank just there at the end of the St Edgar Chapel here, and that would be too deep to have come out anyway, so they didn't bother, because it was a steep bank, they didn't bother doing the GPR survey out that far. But yes, this is what the monks said about it. Beyond the chapel is not there a chamber the which ye shall see when ye have dig full deep, and from him did go a passageway to the lodge over the gate that leadeth to Chalice. So 30 foot beyond the inside wall of Edgar Chapel, on the very edge of the survey. Yeah, that is interesting. St Benedict's Drain. Yes, if you go back to that diagram there, you'll see number 1 over there. That's from an archaeological report. But this blue line is the Lambrook stream. The original water supply to the Abbey comes down there, and it's still down there. You can access that through various manhole covers and people's basements, wells and such like. But some people think there could be interesting stuff down there. There's very deep layers of sediment there, and they've found some interesting bits of pottery down there. So one of these shops here, that they did find St Benedict's Drain going down there, and then there's reports of a collapse right outside the King Arthur pub. There used to be like a little triangle in the road just on the end of where the St Benedict's Church is there. You can just about make out the shape of it there. That's where the triangle was, you can see there. So the collapse was in the centre of this triangular area here, and that revealed a passageway lined with stonework. This is Powell Jenkins interviewed a taxi driver who came up with these stories. He'd seen the tunnels from the Abbey to the Georgian Pilgrim, from the Abbey westward to just past St Benedict's, and he's also talking about the one outside the. He talked about this is the one, the stone-built drain. that goes, that we were just talking about, that had the collapse outside the St Benedict's Church. So there you can see the run of the Lambrook stream, and it actually does go right down Benedict Street there. Yes, says there are 2 metres deep sediment deposits there and a rich source of archaeological material. This is from an archaeological document. No finds early in the medieval period, and this recovered from the silts of this part of the Lambrook. There is a manhole cover on the top of Silver Street, though, which is you can hear the noise of the water rushing as you walk into the top of Silver Street. Just here, there's a very noisy manhole cover, and that could be where the Chalice Well stream joins the Lambrook. There's an old picture, that's the triangular area outside the church, and it's just near to a little conduit marked on the 1930s map. In Pennett's article there was also mention of an 8-mile long tunnel going from the Deerleap Stones up on the Mendips all the way to the Tor, which seems incredibly unlikely, but near these stones there's supposedly a tunnel entrance. A dog was said to have been thrust in to reappear some days later and exit the Glastonbury Tor. It's distant about 8 miles as the crow flies. So I went up there and had a look anyway. And I found there is an old mine shaft just near there, and there are some caves in the woods.
Here we go. Day 1 of Mr. Jeff Stray's Underground Adventures. Systematic and methodical as you like. And here, oh no, health and safety all the way. Roof may collapse on us, but there you go. We'll have lovely clean hands when they dig us out.
So the final tunnel that we're going to talk about is the Grange Tunnel. This turns out to be what's at the other end. The tunnel that was said to connect to the one coming out that went all the way to Street, the one coming out of St Mary's Chapel. So I have to thank Clark's Historical Department, the Alfred Gibbet Trust, for helping me out on this one. They let me look at their records. During the 1950s, various explorations and investigations were done by archaeologists, cave biologists, and 2 dowsers. And they found, that's a picture taken down that tunnel there. This is the result of the archaeological investigation. It's at Grange Barn, Clark's headquarters. The tunnel was dug by monks who used to own a farm that became Street Manor, later called the Grange. It's dug between 2 layers of limestone in the blue layers, so that the hard limestone forms the roof and the floor, and it was dug via shafts vertically down from the surface. You can see number 1 and number 2 shaft there are adjacent to the tunnel, and they're not on top of it, whereas shaft number 3 was right in the middle of the tunnel, and they ended up filling it in, but they left space for the water and put a slab over it, dug a trench underneath, and so they filled it in and the water could pass underneath. Then there was a 4th one, which they took several years before they excavated that one, and on the other side of shaft 4, it shrinks to 1 foot wide, the conduit. So the archaeologists actually couldn't really decide. That was almost 10 years of investigation this went on for, and they couldn't decide the purpose of the tunnel. They thought it was a priest hole for escape, and yet they excavated shaft 3, and they said, well, that what they found didn't indicate that the spoil had been out for long, wasn't oxidised much, so they concluded that that was not the way out that the priests took. It could have been where number 1 or 2 is, but they weren't excavated. Where that L-shaped bit is there, it gets very tight indeed, just where the L-shaped bit is. Up to shaft 3, it's 217 feet in length, and shaft 4, 258 feet in length. So it's looking as if it didn't connect to Glastonbury, because it's actually going straight out to all the levels like a drain. And yet, the first part of it is looking like it was designed for people to go down. And yeah, their ideas on it, you couldn't really agree. And they got the dowsers in, and the dowsers found these dotted lines there, as if there's other passageways going off at right angles to it. So those were never investigated, as far as I know. So, but yet, where you see A there, the previous owner of the Grange did find there was a strawberry bed there, and it collapsed into a hole, and so it looks like there might be something there. Yes, I did actually, last May, I did go down there.
You're game, aren't you?
Yeah.
Be careful.
Yeah, okay.
Previous to that, someone who will just be known as T, speleologist T perhaps, took these photographs down there, and the bottom one on the right there is where it gets very tight indeed, and it's about the width of a pair of shoulders. And speleologist T, he only got as far as that, but more recently, speleologist K got a little bit further. Now, how many people have seen the video that's been recently posted of Special K, as we call him, going down this tunnel? Show of hands, anybody? Oh, hardly anybody. Well, I could put it on in after the talk. It lasts for 13 minutes, and it's quite an arduous trip down this one. But it was found in the records at Clark's, it was found that the origins of this rumour that this tunnel connects to Glastonbury Abbey started by the daughter of Mr. Wood that used to live there. She wrote a book, Frances Wood's her name, in the 1860s or the 1870s, in which she claimed the tunnel connected to the Abbot's kitchen in Glastonbury Abbey. And she also claimed there was a tunnel to Sharpen Manor, but no one's found that. So, we come into conclusion here. Throughout this study, I've found that connected with these tunnel legends, you've got ghosts, yetis, astral cave guardians, a malevolent presence, black magicians, dragons, even a rabid badger of Anwin, spectral dogs with red glowing eyes. This is all from eyewitnesses. And then you've got those older stories of monks coming out insane and dumbstruck, potholes start raving mad, having to go to the asylum at Wells, and if that's not enough, bat parasites. They were reported by the cave biologists in the street tunnel, the Grange tunnel. So yes, if you're going to get into this study, you've got to be aware of all that, because it's not all made up. There was a mental hospital in Wells, and it's actually still there. It's called the Somerset and Bath Paupers Lunatic Asylum, and it was going for 150 years and didn't shut its doors till 1991. I don't know where they all went there. I'm saying nothing. But you can see the Google Earth picture of it. Yes, it's actually now a village called South Horrington. And they've still got the church and the mortuary and the cemetery. It's all still preserved there. Anyway, there is a legend in this town, which is a more recent and definitely happened. Once some man became obsessed by buried treasure and hired a digger and dug up the road at the top of Windmill Hill. But he ended up being sectioned under the Mental Health Act. So, yes, you've got to mind your heads. So, if you want to find out more about all this, all those numbers on that Reading plan were notes where I've enlarged on everything that the archaeologists said about those tunnel sections. This is the book that you can get for a bargain price of £5 at the back. It'll probably be about £8 in the shops. Well, I got my other book, all about the crazy people I meet as a bus driver in this area, called Mendip Madness. That's going extra cheap at £3 a copy as well. And you can also, if you like the Maya calendar, I've got a little book about that. Anyone who thinks they know everything about the Maya calendar, it's guaranteed to make smoke come out of your ears. That's going at a reduced price as well. They're all available at the back. I guess that's the end of the talk.